And welcome everybody. Another respect. Hope you all had a great week. I know I did. And tonight we've got another interesting show for you. We're going to have a round table, which I love doing because it gives us the opportunity to get a good discussion going with a bunch of people. And I've got a bunch of good people here tonight to have this discussion. Some of you may find it a little untoward, and some of you may find it a little argumentative, but that's the point of doing this. So hopefully you will all enjoy it. And without further ado, here's Elisa and Stu. Everybody's all over the place. What happened? What happened here? It's like playing musical chairs here. We got to go like this. Whoop, and there we go. Everybody.
There we are.
How is everybody this evening?
Great.
First.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Well, we discussed this a little bit before. And I want to get right into it because it's an interesting view. So let's take the 40,000-foot view of this. My whole shtick has always been about journalistic integrity, and I try to keep it that way. But as I've said many a time, the alternative media has become the new MSM. It's become just as bad as the MSM. And when we sit and we look at where we are, what do we, the journalist's job is to ascertain the facts and deliver them. What do we really know are the facts? We know for a fact that we're at war. Nobody's going to deny that. Everybody can admit to that. We all know that this is a psyop. Those are two things we know for a fact. Above and beyond that, what do we really know factually? Where did 4POG come from? And how did the Q posts start coming out of there? Where did all this, who is posting it? Again, psyop, the people involved, everything's a little out there and flaky. So where's it all coming from? When we look at a press conference with the president or him addressing the nation and the State of the Union, how do we know we're even looking at the president? There's so many people with masks and body doubles and AI, et cetera, et cetera. How do we know? So there's something that Lord knows may eat up the rest of the show. So let's go. Let's just go in order. Stewie, what you think?
We don't. Excuse me. I have spent so much time over the last 3 or 4 years researching stuff that people have sent me because they haven't got the time to do it. Oh, what do you think of this? Little 1-minute clickbait videos and they're all blackpilling and stuff. And I've stopped doing it now. And I say to people, look, if you haven't got time to look into these things yourself, don't keep sending them to me because I've got enough to do, to be quite honest with you. But I always say this: watch everything, listen to everyone, read all that you can, never believe anything unless you can prove it in your own right. We could really delve into this. Trump said, didn't he, in his Whirlpool speech, I think it was in late 2020, I'm upsetting some I'm really upsetting some people now. You may not see me for a while. I'm not sure we've seen the real Trump since that moment. There's talk of him being in Cheyenne Mountain. If Trump is 100% isolated, like it told us in Q Drops 4 and 6, he's not walking about at fighting events, is he? And walking in crowds. And, that thing on the stage at Butler. It's, there's so much, I don't want to take up all the time, but everyone needs to really, really source their information, and you can't just believe anything. This is why we all go and dig for ourselves. And just talking about, I don't know if anyone's, I think it was called Cicada 3313 or something like that. I've butchered that now because I can't remember what it's called. But there was something that started in about 2011, I think, put out on bulletin boards and 4chan and stuff. And there's a lot of discussion that was a precursor to the Q drops, to see how people in the public would react, to see if they started the Q drops, whether it would actually work, to start getting this information out and wake as many people up as it did and get people to research themselves, because it used the Socratic method, didn't it? Which taught us we are the researchers, we are the news now, and we have to respect that. We have to, we've all got Telegram channels and stuff like that. We can't put out clickbait ourselves, even though people send it to us. We have to look into it. And if you do put something out, I always put an arrow or a finger and look into this,
That's a big key. That's a big key. This is something I think we've all addressed forever. You got to do your own research, and stop using that MSM mind of waiting for the people in front of the camera to tell you what is.
I'll tell you one thing quickly, though, why I do trust the plan is because all this stuff going on with the Strait of Hormuz at the moment, Trump is potentially controlling 85% of the world's oil. You've got super tankers turning around in the Indian Ocean and South Atlantic, heading towards the Gulf of America, that is called now, to fill up their oil. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, why Trump was saying and started saying about 10 years ago, drill, baby, drill.
But do we know that?
Well, I know Trump said it. Oh, do we know they're all turning, all the boats are turning around? And, yeah, we are. I'm not a ship fag, but you understand the people that watch all these boats and the satellite imagery and stuff like that. And there's plenty of other good researchers out there. See, that's the thing. I've potentially watched maybe 200 or 300 different podcasters and shows and stuff, but over this 6 years especially, I've whittled them down, because I've heard someone say one thing and then they said something different a year later, and so you have to do this. It's all about discernment, isn't it? All of it.
Bingo. Elisa.
Okay, so to what Stu said and you said, I don't think we know anything really. I mean, we just don't, I mean, we find out even as truthers, like things we thought, and then we hear something, a couple of years later, we hear something else that makes you go, didn't see it that way. I don't know. So the only thing I could say is that it appears to me that whatever really the Q movement did, it did get people to start trusting their gut and to start questioning, because the first step to really understanding, to finding the truth is to start questioning, right? we're so trained to just listen to what the mainstream media, I'm so sorry guys, had to let my dog in. The mainstream media says, and just kind of be brainwashed by television. And I think it got everyone, or at least those that were following it, to think, to question, to say, it looks like this, but it might not be that, right? And I think to your point about journalistic integrity, most people, right, that are in this truth or podcasting, we're not journalists. Like, we weren't trained. We don't really know the rules and, all the we just go out there and do give our opinions. Now, the ones that are, I think, have more integrity say that, like, this is just my opinion. It's from what I've researched. It's what I found. I don't know if it's true, but it's worth investigating and, getting ourselves to think about it a little bit. I think what I've learned from this is that we've never taken enough time as humans to sit back and just sit in the silence of everything and see what answers come to us, what makes sense, what maybe God is trying to tell us, our creator, however you refer to it. And because I think we've learned that there's something about us that they've tried to really hurt. And that's just looks like facts in a way, right? Look around at all the people that are on medications. They don't ever get better. In fact, most of them get worse. So I think it's about discernment. It's about trusting ourselves. It's about looking locally. I think that we have to look at, right? Because if you go to a school board meeting and something doesn't seem right, then probably it's not right across the country, And the other thing I would also say is even if you're not really following Q, you sense something's different. I mean, you just sense in the last 6 years something dramatic is different. It, it's just in the ether. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know if it's that the vibrations and the frequency are raising. I don't know if a lot of the evil that was on this planet has been done away with. But if you're a sensitive person, you're going to feel that something is different. And I think that's the only thing we can really know for sure, what our instincts are telling us. Because I agree with you. I was just saying to Stu this morning, like, what do you think the reason is for this whole Melania coming out and the Epstein stuff with her and the photos, and like, what does it mean? Is there a deeper meaning? Is it what it is? She really was with this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to sort of wait and see more clues. But what I can say with certainty is that knowing Donald Trump and looking back at his life, okay, I think we sort of could all agree that whenever it looks like he's really going to lose or something terrible is going to happen, he switches, the narrative gets switched and he comes out on top. And we could just look at him as a businessman for that alone. So it kind of makes me feel like whether he's part of the psyop and telling us stuff for this reason or not telling the truth or playing the game, I think we sort of can have a little bit of a trust that we're moving in the right direction. And the right direction would be for all of us to be more sovereign and for our nation to be healed so that we're not under the industrial complexes, whether they be, medical, military, agriculture. So that's what I would say. The feeling feels positive.
Which is important. And, bear in mind, by asking the question that I asked, I'm not negating the plan. I'm not saying I don't believe in the plan. I'm not saying people shouldn't believe in the plan. I think the plan is visibly working. I think that the plan has a lot of intricacies to it because it is a military operation. But bearing in mind, and I've said this a bunch of times also, every war has psychological operations. This is the only war ever that is a psychological operation. So everything is twists and turns. So, for everybody out there, don't send your cards and letters to Stu because, I don't want to hear them. But it's just a matter of, I'm not putting it down. Everybody's got to think and really think about the fact that a lot of what you're getting out there is opinion and not necessarily fact. You have to learn to discern. Just like Joe. What do you have to say, Joe?
Well, it's interesting. I just see all these huge accounts and the clickbaiting and all that stuff and the infighting and I think anyone that watches shows that we do, all of us here really, that we're in this for the children. We're really in this to help. I'm in this for the long-term game. I know that at some point people can go back and see the shows that we've done, and some of the subject matter was a bit out there and groundbreaking, and it's really cool if it's authentic. I mean, I when we interviewed someone that had tried adrenochrome twice, it wasn't like he knowingly was doing that, but he gave us his take on the effects. He really didn't believe the people that were giving it to him. He's like, yeah, right, sure it is. So I think what's challenging is here we are many years into this, and it's even hard for us that have these shows to know what's going on, because I'm Truth Stream's very guest centric, and so there's not a lot of shows where Scott and I are claiming to necessarily know certain things or push certain agendas, if you will. We do this to provide clarity for the people that watch our show, and it's getting really challenging when I have friends that are still sick. I would love the med beds to come out, or the solar flash. I just uploaded an amazing interview between Trader Girl Q and our friend Lady D. And there was a lot of like dates being thrown out for when the Golden Gate Bridge is going to go down, or when Trump is supposed to appear to go down in a plane crash, and that's and that may happen. I don't know, but it's hard right now to really say exactly what is going on. And to your point, Mark, yeah, what have we been watching for many years? I mean, even going back to the 1969 moon landing, I just sent my brother, who is a pilot and he was in the Air Force, this video of this guy basically showing that there was a plane flying over California. It was a very large plane, a military plane, and that I believe it was in 2018 that they could drop what looks to be the same type of vessel that the astronauts landed in the ocean. And he said, well, I'm going to send this to my friend in the military. And it's like, great, thank you. That's what I want. I want my brother to be able to send to his friends that are in the military so they can really look at this. And it's not just some, video that's done on X, looking up Google. Like, that's where we're at. Like, if we can get some of these people involved in helping us figure it out, that'd be great. I wasn't like, oh no, this is what we need to look at. It's like, help us, because we're on the ride with the audience ourselves. We don't exactly know what the heck's going on. So,
and that's really the whole crux of this.
Yeah,
we all, part of really simple, I think people tend to overthink things. Okay, part of the simple research, you want to find out what's going on in Israel. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people who have family in Israel. Okay, check in with your family. Are they shooting mortars in 24/7? Are they sending rockets in 24/7? You're having to run down to the bomb shelter all the time. Same thing in Iran. Same thing when things were going on in Iraq. Same thing. Are they gearing up in Cuba? Half of Miami is if not most of Miami is Cuban. All these different people can check on these different things. So, again, that's the crux of the point. So, Kat, you've dealt with me the longest here.
So, for me, we don't even know how long this war actually has been going on.
right.
So everybody's thinking it's because Q came out. I think it was way before that. If you go back and you look at what Trump was saying in the 80s, he's like, well, if I have to do it, I don't want to, but if I have to. So it kind of feels like he was already in contract mode back then about that. One of the things that bothers me the most is people saying, well, I wonder what so-and-so thinks. So I'm constantly saying, what do you think? Like, can you sit quiet for a moment, feel it in your heart, feel it in your gut? Does it feel right? If it does, look at it. If it doesn't, look at it even more. So like you said, everybody's switched out. And I say this all the time. I'm like, stop switching out MSN for the podcasters. You need to think for yourself. You need to learn. You need to know what to do. You need to understand and understand everything, because we've been lied to about everything. Our medical, our schooling. Like I go look back now and I'm like, okay, so I was trying to see if like all the Gen Xers, it's mostly that generation. I think that was the last generation that was able to be manipulated, right? And we weren't really paying attention in school. Now, I'm very good at like book smart stuff, right? But I'm excellent at street smarts. And you have people that have one or the other. They don't have both. And that's where we have to get back into it, because you can be book smart, but you could be dumb as a brick when it comes to anything. And it's like, can you use your discernment? Can you wake up and just look at something? But what I'm finding is I'm going out there and I'm talking more. I will find people are like close and want to be my friend until I start speaking the truth. And then by the end of the night, they don't want to know me anymore. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to keep shining my light. I'm going to keep shining the truth. And if it's too hard to understand, sorry. But this is why we're here. And it's also part of why we started up the series that we did, because we're going back and teaching you look at how far back we've been dealing with this. This isn't brand new. So why did we get here? Well, look at MK Ultra. Okay, how did we get here? Okay, well, let's look at this. Let's look at this. We're pulling apart each part of this war. Again, we don't know how long we've been fighting it or in it. And saying, let's look at it from a different lens and try to see and not have these patterns repeated. But we can't do that unless we know what we live through. So it's important to get into it and know, like, well, how come we live through this? Because we allowed our employees to go rogue, and it's time to fire them. It's time to say, it's we the people, and we've lost that along the way.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue. And again, it comes to personal responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think that one of the things, and everybody's gone through this so far, is the part of A, responsibility, and B, the editorializing. Because there are a lot of people in a lot of different ways that are just putting out their opinion. And when they put out their opinion, especially, they're and I know I'm going to catch a lot of crap for this, but hey, I'm going away in 2 weeks. There are people putting stuff out there in regard to history. We've been told everything that we were ever told was lies. And in a way, that opens up the door for people to reinterpret history. And they're reinterpreting history on and by their own opinion. And again, there are certain things that you can present that are in the books, et cetera, that you can present and say, well, these are facts. But again, if everything we learned was a lie, where do we know that any of this stuff that we're being told, that again, we know is a psyop, that again, everything we were told was a lie, where are we going? So it's like, are you lying to me now?
Right. How about now?
If you're telling me the truth, then everything's a lie.
But it's so easy to change the books now because everything's digital, right? So I went back to my parents' house and I have my old books, what they taught us at economics, on purpose. I kept it. I don't know why I kept it then, but I found it and I almost got rid of it. I'm like, no, let's hold on to this and show us like what they were teaching us back then. And this is how you get duped, because as children, we are open. We're susceptible to their lies and the deceit, and we trust. And that's another thing, authority bias. And because someone's in a lab coat or somebody's in front of a classroom or someone's in front of a microphone, their word is like gospel, and it shouldn't be that way anymore.
Yeah.
But once they went digital, that was when it all went down, because they can change history in a second.
Well, they change Wikipedia all the time, don't they?
Yeah, so true. What I was going to say is that if we're coming from the lens of like, we really don't know, but if you go back and you look at whistleblowers, maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 100 years ago, with things like, healing modalities and things like that. And if you look at the fact that they were shut down, bankrupted, killed, incarcerated, whatever, it was to keep them quiet, right? And then you look at a lot of the people that are out there talking about this stuff today, right? Maybe the last 5 years, from what we know or what we assume, they haven't been killed. Like, we haven't been killed. Do you know what I'm saying? The things we're talking about. So to me, that leads me to believe something good is happening, that there's the good forces are either planting this stuff for us to find more and more, so that we do, we think we do all this great research, but if it wasn't put there, we wouldn't get it, right? Let's be real, unless someone or you have like a one-to-one, relationship. So I would say that tells me a little bit that we're probably moving in the right direction and winning this war. And so when we see a lot of this PSYOP stuff, for me, I look at it and say, well, there's probably a good chance that some of the stuff that Q said, where we see that it might be coming to fruition or we're watching it, but more importantly, people like us are popping up more and more. And, thank goodness we're not getting bullets through the head. So it means that things are safer, and that maybe part of the PSYOP at this point is to help people see where some of that deception has been. And again, I'm just basing it on, we all know, like, so many people that we admire, or we first started listening to stuff in the 90s, the 80s, and then for whatever reason, they mysteriously died, they went missing, whatever the case was. So that to me is like a positive that says maybe we're on to something with some of these truths, in spite of what's going on with what we can't prove.
Yeah, I mean, we could all be in prison now, couldn't we? Or in a FEMA camp, or burned at the stake. Any of those things. But we're sitting here getting the message out to as many people that want to listen to us, and helping as many people as we can.
And again, this goes back to discernment and breaking that brainwashing, breaking that trend of just listening to the people in front of the camera and accepting it as gospel. That's the brainwashing that we had before. And the only way, and I've said it myself a million times, the only way to unbrainwash somebody is the same method. Wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat.
Rinse, repeat.
So, where are
Mark,
we?
that's why I set the series up that way. I don't give my opinion. I say, what do you think? Can you remember back to? Can you give an example of? Been trying to make critical thinking great again, because I don't put myself on camera. I do that on purpose, because 9 out of 10 times people judge the messenger, so they shut down the message. So it's just my voice, it's pictures, it's video, and it's like, use your own discernment, use your own brain. What do you think? Let's go back. Let's rethink this. And I think that as it gets more and more momentum, people are going to understand that. But right now it's like people are lazy and they want everything done for them. And that's a big problem that we have.
That's been ongoing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
How you seeing it, Joe?
Well, I almost want to revert back to how Kat does things. Maybe not show my face. Actually, it really doesn't matter. Up in the Northwest, like, there's really nowhere I can't go. There's no one that recognizes me really from the show. I mean, maybe it's happened 1 or 2 places, but well, I think what this brings up, what's been great is we've been working with E. Smitty from Sound Alive Records to promote the Awakening Summit in New York. And it was great to get mentioned in Yahoo Finance and quite a few different publications, because it helps bridge that gap between fringe, if you will, and mainstream. So that's one great point that I wanted to make. But I would, it makes me wonder if we could get more folks, not that there's a lot like Ken Rosado, but he's a dear friend of yours, here you are trying, doing what you can, but somehow if we can bridge that gap. I mean, there are some shows out there, Clayton Morris on Redacted, he was friends with Tucker, but I don't know. It's just challenging still that this is so fringe in some ways. Like, I still know one of my friend's wife, she just can't hear this anymore. I mean, we're ready. According to Derek Johnson, like, this is the year that by July 4th, I just put this clip up. We had about an hour and a half chat with him last week, and I found this section where he's saying, no, it can't go on much longer than this, because we're in the 250th year. This needs to be revealed. If we go past this, then it's going to, in some ways, lose the chutzpah in a way that it has. So I don't know. It is challenging because and obviously we're still shadow banned. I put a post on TikTok, and that has like 10,000 views, and a lot of a lot of comments, etc. But the same post on X, I don't even know, it might have one like, and it's just, when are we going to see that real shift that I think humanity's ready for? I mean, it's always feels like we're on the verge and these dangling carrots. And I get if they would have told us 6 years ago, like, well, come 2026, you're still going to be in this fight, and people are still not really going to be believing, etc. Because I mean, I'm one of those people that told my sister-in-law that, yeah, Tom Hanks is dead. And I just felt like all this was going to come out relatively soon, and here we are. So it kind of makes you crawl back into your shell a little bit and be like, I don't really want to talk about things lately, and with whatever optics is going on with Trump. I'm not out there, pushing the Trump narrative right now. I'm just kind of in a holding pattern, just doing the show. And this is what we do, and doing the Awakening Summit. And most people, I would say that we're reaching, I don't want to say it's fully an echo chamber, but they grasp that, yeah, we're doing the best we can. They've been along for the ride, and we're in the same place as a lot of our viewers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, but this is where we are. Okay. And you've got, like you mentioned, Ken and Tucker. Now, Ken is a good friend of mine. He's awake. He is a mainstream media reporter, anchor. But there are things that he doesn't know. People like Tucker that I've watched have spent a lot of time, and this is one of the key things that's always driven me crazy. From where he was on TV to where he is now, a lot of waffling. Now, to me, when I watch, I look at it in the sense of, I see somebody doing that and all of a sudden kind of going 180 from where he was.
Right.
That's part of the psyop.
Right. And the thing is with Tucker, is Tucker still Tucker? I think Ken is still Ken. I mean, Ken's your buddy. Ken is Ken. I don't know what we're watching with Tucker personally. I have no idea.
Well, the same thing, Tucker, Candace Owens. You look at, let's just say Alex Jones. You look at some of these people and they go on, and when you see them waffle like that, one of the first things that comes to our mind from the things we've been told, and again, this is the whole crux of this show, is what we've been told, that they not only change their opinions, they change their directions. And that certain people, especially a lot of these people who have huge audiences, are controlled operatives to a certain extent. Their audiences aren't, what's the word? It doesn't come naturally. Okay, so this has been helped along, and they've grown in their popularity, and they have their purpose out there. Where do we guide the people besides constantly telling them you have to learn to discern? Where do we guide the people to get through and figure out exactly where it is that we need to move, and how we can learn to discern the difference between fact and fiction?
Joe, you mentioned Derek Johnson, right? So if I mean, of course, Stu and I have a show very similar to yours. It's very guest centric, and we bring people on. A lot of times we let them talk about what they've researched, know, practiced best. We ask questions to try to dig a little deeper. But I would say, in my opinion, that Derek Johnson and what he brings to the table in the way of the military rules, regulations, what the interpretation is of some of the things that we've seen, the the law of war manual, right? Those are very physical things that we could sort of take and then point to something that happened or something that proves out that way. And then that leads you down the path of the Constitution and what the Republic really is all about and what we should be kind of studying in that. So I think at the end of the day, as much as we all, and Stu and I consider ourselves Q-tards, and we like to dig into that. We like to see these connections. But as we've said, how do we know everything is true? What's a PSYOP? Where does it start? Where does it end? All that. I think to guide anyone, especially where there may be more truth, is to understand better what the military, what that's all about, what a lot of these rules, regulations, and laws are all about, and to delve into the Constitution and some of the history of some of the, let's say, laws or the act of, listen, I didn't know about the Organic Act of 1871 until 2020, okay? Had no clue whatsoever. I'm sure there's a lot of people today who still have no clue, right? Not in our community maybe, but, people that aren't into all this. So I would say that might be a really good place to start. That's one of the reasons that we wanted Derek Johnson to come to the Awakening Summit, because we're hoping it's going to enlighten, obviously, people that are already aware. It's going to maybe take them a little deeper, but we're trying to get a lot of people that are new to the, awakening movement and everything, so that they can listen to this and maybe help other people to understand that are newly awakening, right? But to me, that would probably be, I'm going out on a limb here, but that would probably be more where a lot of the truth could be found, as opposed to some of these other areas that we know are being used as PSYOP. It doesn't mean they're not true, but they're a little more difficult to point to and have proof. Whereas I think a lot of the military operations, the U.S. Constitution, I think those are places where we could put a little bit more of our trust to kind of understand and study, and then see how that played out maybe through history.
Right. Yeah. Well, and just like when, the military standing with their backs to Biden, that was, there's definitely some things that we can look at and go, wow, something is definitely going on, for sure. But I don't know. I just, because we cover such a wide variety of subject matter that, we're just wondering, okay, I would love this new technology to come out. And it is. My mom's using a PEMF machine, and that's helping with her diabetes, and she needs to be consistent with it. But, if all this stuff if this is supposed to happen this year, I think we're all done with the conversations in some way and ready for the real. Like, I'm a very results oriented person. I can speculate and all that, and it's fun. But, when it comes to like the Awakening Summit, why I jumped on board to help Elisa and Donna is like, my background is in that. And so we reached out to Robert Imbriale to talk about what kind of location we have. I started reaching out to many of the speakers, reaching out to E. Smitty for, any kind of advertising. Like, I want to see real-time results of my efforts. That's how I operate. And so it's getting challenging for me at times to be just kind of spitballing this stuff and speculating when real people are dying, real people are sick, and I want to make a difference in the world on a grand scale. And so it gets frustrating me as someone that's hosting a show to just kind of keep talking about some of these same topics. So, does that make sense, guys? That's where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is, as podcasters, as alleged truthers, we put stuff out there, and we all get, people in the chat, and we'll get people who comment on the shows. And that's probably, to a certain extent, part of what's most frustrating is when you look at responses in the chat and you look at comments that you get sometimes, and you wonder why people still, at this point, this is, besides being a war, this has been phrased as the Great Awakening. And you have to wonder why enough people aren't waking up, and there's still picking out a word here or a word there and being offended or put off by something that you said or something that a guest said, when an entire 2 hours might have gone by that everybody's raving about. And this is part of what's holding us back.
Yeah.
So
Well-
where do we get people to change that mental outlook? And this is part of what's that I've railed about for a long time with, if we don't change human nature, that this is doomed to fail.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're all trying to do, isn't it? But you've got to hand it to the dark side. They have done such a miraculous job on humanity over the hundreds, if not thousands of years in this brainwashing. People are so entrenched into the system that they aren't finding it hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to nurture them out of it. We get frustrated with them, we shout at them, and we all have to have a laugh through this because it's the humour and the memes, and it's kept us going, hasn't it? Really, if they'd have told us in the Q operation almost 10 years ago that we'd be doing this for 10 years, how many of us would have disengaged right at the start?
Right.
And not still been there doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
A lot of us.
But, you know, I have to say on the positive side, honestly, I think, and I don't know if any of you have experienced this, because trust me, I've deal with normies and the nastiness and the, you know, trying to discount everything that you talk about. But when you talk about a lot of these, we're waiting for like grand scale stuff, right? Like med beds and ways to help heal and all that. But just look at where we've come from since, say, 2020 alone. We're spreading the word more and more about things like ivermectin, about home cures that people are using more and more, whether it just comes down to simple baking soda and, you know, Epsom salt, right? And all the things that we tell people and we're using in our own lives. So like in my world, I have a lot of normies, but I find that there's more people that will listen to me. Maybe not if I start talking about a med bed, but if I say, hey, you know, it's kind of important to do a little detox, you know, because there's so much stuff in the air and, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we're getting, you know, through our food, right? They kind of like, they're kind of a little nodding about that now. They know the food is shit. They know that somehow there's pollutants, right? Without you getting into chemtrails and all this other stuff. And I found that more people will respond to that and say, you know, maybe take a bath, you know, plus it's so relaxing. And there's always ways to explain these things. So I think part of this whole discernment thing is also getting us to start practicing in a different way than we ever did. And then in little ways, getting people to realize what they can do. And I'm sure all of us have had conversations where maybe you're not going to get into the whole queue and the military operation, the plan and this and that, but you can get people to take better care of themselves. You can get them to understand the importance. Maybe you need sunlight, you know, and
Talk to them like they're a car, right? You need a tune up. You tune up your car. Why aren't you tuning up your body?
Yeah, in like a nice kind. So
in a nice way.
We're raising, like I think we're raising, and I know just with my coaching clients, when I talk to them about meditation or I talk to them about deep breathing, I find out they don't know as much as I do about what's going on, but they want to view things in a more spiritual, you know, inner growth kind of way. So I think everything we've done, my point is everything we've done out there on our podcast, everything we do every day, I do think there's more people. Again, they may not understand the whole Biden thing. They may not understand Q. But I think they're raising and they're understanding that there's a lot of things we could be doing to heal ourselves without the med beds, let's say. And when those med beds come, like that's a whole other world. But look at all the people that are curing themselves of can't curing. Yeah. We're learning it's a parasite, right? And ad nauseum, I say that to people. It's like, no, it's parasites.
I've said for years we're the med beds, and what if we need to have our mindset right before you can even get into it? But I say the med beds are the training wheels. So if you get your mindset right, so in case you have to get in there before, whatever, we don't know what it is, right? But say you have to get your mindset right before you're allowed to use this thing. So you're actually healing yourself with your mind, thinking that this machine is doing it. It's just, it boggles my mind. But a lot more people are open to healing frequencies, and my singing bowls and like all my clients are like, love the meditations and they love the singing bowls. And I do like personalized things for them. And I'll say, what do you want to, what is your intention? Let's put it into the bowl. And we just heal them. And it's really powerful. And goes back to, you know, our churches. What were they? They were healing centers. I don't believe that we were told the truths about things. You know, when people were going to church, they were going to get their frequencies rebalanced. I don't believe that they were going for the and I know people are gonna be mad at me, but I don't believe that we were going to what they say it is now. You know, and all of these things have been taken out of our environment, which helped us heal. Right. So we need to bring that back into our world too, and start to say, you know what, we are energy beings. We are 100. You know, we're go into the medical, and that's the best way you can teach them in the medical field. You have the EKG, right? You have all these different things that measure our electric systems in our body. So it makes sense. We should try to put ourselves back into balance by frequency healing. And that's what I feel is part of what we're coming into. More people are open to that, and more people are open to taking like, you know, a supplement that's going to help them heal. And I think that a lot of people are just beaten down with having to work so much that they can't even like take care of themselves. It's really sad.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah, we just had a clip with Dr. Lee Merritt talking about how she was getting cravings for, you know, sweets or whatever anyway, and then she took some ivermectin and it went away because it, you know, it quelled whatever the parasites or what have you. But it just sucks that we're still getting that clip on YouTube taken down, and I don't know if we're getting a strike or whatever, or as a warning, but I guess that's partly what I'm talking about. Like, the shadow banning is just, I think it's already done enough. Like, let us flourish now. People are ready for it.
And who do we get to talk to about that? Because we thought that we had free speech and free press, and we learned after COVID that we had none of that. So I feel like it's putting a light on everything. Yeah, well, 2020, we all got perfect vision, right?
Right. But it's like, we're 6 years into it. Let our channels flourish.
Let us grow. Let us
come on.
Share. And I'm with you. I'm action oriented. So like when I'm seeing people just sitting here talking, I'm like, hey, what are you doing about it though? Right? What are you doing? Let's do something. Do something.
See, I think there's a lot more people awake than we think are awake, but they're just not using their voices. They're not showing themselves, whether they're scared or, you know. But a quote from Mark Twain: "In the beginning of change, the patriot is a scarce man, and brave and hated and scorned. Right. When his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot." Mm-hmm. When it becomes fashionable, right, and these people are not in fear of going, "Oh, I knew that." No,
I always knew that. Okay.
You know, thanks for joining us at the early days, but they will come eventually. And what you were saying about the churches, Kat, you know, you look at cymatics and stuff, all the shapes of the windows, and obviously the big spires and all these things.
Those were the frequencies that the church, you know, had.
And the bells.
And if so, there's this a video that I recently saw, and if you put like sand, and then you go in, it'll make the design of what the stained glass was. So it's like, this is like say music notes, right? This is music note B, go in here if that's what you need today, go into this one if you need C, you know. And it's just, those were your frequencies, and that's how you were able to balance yourself out. Because I don't know, it's just, I'm with you. I'm like, let's go, let's let the truth be told. Like, enough.
Yeah, rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah. I mean, if they haven't woken up yet, I don't know. And also in the Q jobs, it does say some will not come around and they will never want to learn. Right.
And that's a
maybe it's time. Like, let's, like you say, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go. What are we waiting for?
See, and I think that's a lot of what's been frustrating a lot of the patriots, and why you've got, you know,
The fair weather ones.
well, fair weather patriots, but also, you know, all the attacks that you see going on, you know, what did I say before, the animals eating their young, you know,
Yeah.
it's become a point of contention with a lot of people that, and I think that it's a societal thing, because we had gotten so brainwashed and used to the point of instant gratification. And when you're used to instant gratification and you're living in a world of instant gratification and you're being told that things are happening, but they're just not happening fast enough for you, that's where you get a lot of the triggering. That's where you get a lot of the people complaining and, you know, saying, this isn't going to work. And I don't believe in I don't believe in any of this anymore. So I think a lot of people, a lot of the, again, quote unquote, truthers who are out there are doing it and starting to try and figure out directions that they can go in order to try and reestablish that connection and re-energize the patriot movement. But, you know, as we've all stated a million times, this is a military operation. And when you've got a military operation, it's a fluid operation. It doesn't necessarily, they have to be able to make movements at a second's notice. If somebody is one of their moves, it's 5D chess. And when you're doing that, you have to be prepared to make those movements. And the key element of it all is that it operates on a need to know basis. And no matter how you want to look at it, no matter how entitled you want to feel, we don't need to know.
Yeah.
And I don't want to know. My nephew's a Green Beret and he's somewhere. We don't know where. We don't know when he's coming home. And we just trust that, you know, God's got him, you know.
Yeah.
But Trump always said that. And if you go back to the video that I posted a long time ago, he says, I think that when we tell our enemies what we're doing, it's the stupidest thing. He goes, why do we do this? He says, but don't worry, we're going to attack. And that's like one of the best clips. He goes, attack we will. And when we are on a need to know basis, but I think that when we have a little bit more insight, so we can say, almost like future proofs past, look, this is what we were talking about. Do you see that? That's what this was. You see that? And I think a lot of people should go watch Wag the Dog.
Yeah.
And try to figure out, okay, that was the technology back then. Could you imagine what they could do now?
Yeah. I mean,
that was
one of the greatest little updates Trump said, it was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? He said, who knows better than that than Japan? Did they tell me about Pearl Harbor? You know,
Yeah.
it's exactly right.
Yeah.
I just want to add to this. Where we go, when we go all, means all of us. But he says in the Q drops -4 to 6% that are never going to wake up. So I see this long rollout is to bring as many people as we can. We trust the plan, but we, the people, are a massive, massive part in this plan. This is why General Flynn says local action is national impact all the time. And you can just go back to Tucker, Candice, and Alex Jones. Now, are they the original people? Are they paid opposition? Have they been in there to get a big following, to turn those following when they've got a lot of people against Trump? However, all the people that are behind Trump wouldn't be turned by someone like that. So you have to think, well, potentially, why are they doing it? Well, all the people with TDS that are still not getting it, whenever someone goes against Trump, they start looking at these people. And what are Candice, Alex Jones, and Tucker all talking about? They're all talking about Israel. Right. And we believe this Iran situation is a proxy war to get the eyes on over there. Potentially Israel for last. Right, we've been told.
Well, I think that, you know, we get onto that topic. You're dealing with a situation whereby, how do you really expose what's gone on in the Middle East? And Iran has been regarded as the hub for all terrorism. They finance them, they supply, et cetera, et cetera. When you eliminate the boogeyman for Israel, where do they have to go? It kind of negates, you combine that, first of all, it negates their being able to say, well, we have to defend ourselves on all fronts. If you get rid of the boogeyman, if the financing goes away, you find that most of your people are going to go, well, we can't afford to do this anymore. Let's go to another playground. So right there, it stops them from being able to go with the great land grab or the greater Israel, I think they called it. But it eliminates that. And then on top of that, you've got the peace board. And when you're dealing with trying to get 60 countries together to be on this peace board, and you've already got 29 countries in and working together, some countries that never, ever, ever got along, working together to try and do this.
Your financial advisor isn't going to tell you this. Your bank won't mention it. And your 401k custodian, they're hoping you never find out. You can convert your retirement account into physical gold and silver, real metal in your hands, or stored exactly where you decide. It's called a gold IRA rollover, and it's 100% legal, 100% IRS approved. And your financial, quote, experts, they don't get a commission when you take control like this. Wall Street wants your money in their system, in their accounts, where they control it. But physical gold, that's yours. Can't be hacked, can't be deleted, can't vanish when the market crashes. Verity Metals, we're the experts they don't want you to call. Convert your IRA or 401k into gold and silver that you can actually hold. Call 480-717-9081 or visit veritymetals.com, because your retirement should be in your hands, not theirs.
Any aggression put forward by Israel gets looked at as why? So people are going to look at it in a different mindset and start to go with, maybe this wasn't everything that it was cracked up to be. And maybe everything that we've been told forever on that isn't so. And they can start to learn about the Balfour Agreement and start to learn about how the state of Israel came into being, not the Israel that's in the Bible, back to the tribes of Israel.
That's a huge point, Mark, because as well as I do, you're in in Florida now, but in New York, it's a very big Jewish community, and I have so many friends. But you get on it, at least in the past, you got on Israel. That was a very sensitive subject. So they had to do this very carefully, because there's a lot of fear and a lot of sense of safety that these folks have tied to that. So you're right. It's got to be done strategic. But I wanted to say, and maybe pose this as a question to everyone. We talk about ripping the Band-Aid off, right? So how do you rip the Band-Aid off, right? We're all going to kind of probably say, oh, the EBS, right? Does anybody have thoughts? I'd love to hear everybody's move the conversation towards what we think about the EBS, because I can't think of any other way you rip a Band-Aid off except for a mass announcement, something that everyone's going to see. And we've heard about this in Q. And as truthers, we're all kind of I think most of us have that fantasy, right? Because we've been banging our heads against the wall that, okay, I don't have to do it anymore. It's out there. They're listening to it. I could go in my yard and have a nice iced tea. I don't even have to hear it. Let them learn all that I've been trying to tell them. So where do we think that's soon? Before,
I think that if we did it that way and everybody, so you have to think, we're all waking up at our own times, right? So I think that if everybody was to wake up at the same time, it would put the world into such a shock. So I think they have to come in waves. So each wave is helping the next wave through.
Right.
So I think if it was an EBS, I think it would be detrimental. I don't think it would be beneficial at all. I don't. That's just my personal opinion.
Even if it's good stuff, even if they start.
All right, Elisa. So all these parents find out that they gave their kids this jab thing and they harmed them. that's panic mode. That's not really, so you have to roll it out so they're doing it the way that they're doing it. And let me tell you, when we went to the air show, I helped a lot of people with the red pill because I said, look at that. It's like, that's precision. Like, they're like so tight. Like, there's no way that we didn't know about this. And you just start to talk to people about different things. But I think that if everything came out at once, I think it would do the opposite of what we're looking to do. And it would cause, because I've been doing a lot of the research with, the brainwashing, and that would be MK Ultra. Like, we'd MK Ultra ourselves. We would just all like, we would all just fizzle out, and it would just, that everybody would be a panic.
How long do you see this playing out then?
I don't know, but I think that each wave is helping the next wave.
Sure.
So now we're on Israel wave, right? So we've talked about the Epstein. We've talked about a little bit, like the WHO is kind of, we know now that the WHO is crap, right? So we're finding these things out, slow roll. And now what they say, Israel's for last. So hopefully we're at the end of it, but it's not our time, right? It's the time of the military and the plan that they had set out. Because if you look into, like, even like with AI, and they go back and the looking glass and things like that, and you can say, okay, well, if we did this plan, what would the outcome be? And so I think that they went through, and it kind of reminds me of that game, that movie War Games with the Whopper, where they ran all the different scenarios through and was like, okay, well,
destroy itself.
Right.
What's going to be the best way for humanity to wake up? And I think that they found it, and it sucks, yes, that it's so slow, but we've been through so much.
Yeah.
But you're assuming it's bad, a bad EBS.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad EBS.
No,
I'm saying
if the EBS was bad, like,
I just think telling everybody at once isn't going to.
But what if we told everyone at once a little bit about the central banking system and how we're on a new financial system?
We would have bank runs, and then everybody would be panicking
people
again.
Are going to start to see more money in their Social Security, where people are going to get paid more.
Well, Trump did that. He said no tax, right? So I think it's a slow roll.
But it hasn't. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I disagree.
I could be wrong.
I 100% agree with you that you can't start telling people you probably poisoned your kids, because it really has nothing to do with COVID. It really has nothing to do with COVID.
They've been poisoning us forever.
Every one of us who's been vaccinated. And so our parents and grandparents who did it to their kids. But I do think that for people to understand a little bit more on a grand scale what is going on from a military standpoint, how we've brought back the republic, how many people didn't realize exactly that we were a corporation, how we're going to be moving into an era of abundance. I mean, not all of us have been out there trying to red pill people with bad. We've been trying to tell them how we're going to be moving into abundance. We're going to be moving into a point where everybody is going to want to help one another. People are so down about where they are just paying their bills. So that's a similar way of ripping off the Band-Aid in a very positive way as well.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what the EBS will be if we do get an EBS. And I think we'll have an EBS, but it's not going to be telling people about the banking system. We've all been learning that for a long, long time. I think we will get an EBS.
We have, Stu.
But the EBS won't be the catalyst. I think we're going to see things before that. And I think the first thing we're going to see that's really going to wake the normies up publicly is the overturning of the 2020 election. And that is going to lead into everything else. That's going to lead into the COVID lies. How did they cheat the election?
Everything's connected.
It is connected. Once that goes, people will start looking into COVID. That is a process of waking up. Hold up a minute. What do you mean they put people into nursing homes? What do you mean about those governors? What do you mean? Do you mean the media was lying to us? The election is the catalyst for all that. And I think when the EBS goes off, it will be all the tribunals. We might see hangings and stuff. It's meant to all be filmed in analog, although that's allegedly. We don't actually know that. But yeah, it's going to roll out like that. And just quickly, has anyone heard my 120-day theory?
Yes, I thought that was great. You might as well go over that again.
Elisa and I were talking to, who was it? BB McGuire, wasn't it? And we were saying, if this July the 4th...
And Derek. I think.
Hey?
And Derek.
No, it was on BB. It was on the show with
Yeah,
BB.
it's on Beat
that-
and Cry. So, oh no, I asked Derek about it as well when he was on with us.
Yeah.
And he sort of smiled like he does, which is nice. But we were talking about if this July the 4th date is the end, so much has got to happen before that. And Elisa was saying, well, maybe the July the 4th date is the start, right? So, are we going to see a big announcement? Anyway, I went to bed that night. I was lying there, I was thinking, 120. What am I thinking about that? And I thought, oh, hang on about a minute. Got back up to the computer because I remember if Nasara is real, there's 20 points on there. And one of the points is when Nasara is announced, there will be new elections called within 120 days. That is what it stated. So I did days between dates, and the days between July the 4th and the midterms on November the 3rd is exactly 120 days. So maybe we'll get some stuff filtering out before that, election fraud and stuff, but maybe Nasara, Trump Sara, whatever it's going to be called. We're seeing softballs of it, no tax on tips and stuff. Anyway, if that is announced, something like that, then I think we're going to get 120 days of disclosure, which may be a massive, long bit of EBS, bit of EBS, bit of EBS, bit of EBS. And so that so many people are awake to what they come up, we will, if we do have the midterms, it will be the freest and fairest election in history.
I love that theory. I think it's great.
Wait to it. And I don't know.
And what calendar are we going by? Because is it really?
Well, yeah.
So
We're
if
missing
you
10
do the
days.
math, if you do the math with that, April is really July.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're missing 10 days as well, aren't they? Out of
there's our
the
10 days.
to Gregorian stuff. So even maybe that will come into it. I mean, it doesn't say 10 days of darkness in
It does not.
It says 10 days period, darkness period, I believe. And then it says Dankes as well, doesn't it?
Dankes, yeah.
So maybe we'll have a 10 days of darkness.
And how funny is it that they went around the moon for 10 days?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's this post that I got to tell you guys this. This is crazy. This is on X. I just posted this. And Mark, while I look this up, not that you need to show this, but 600 were just arrested for child trafficking in California. And so this is probably part of the rolling out of, why things are taking long, because it's allowing them to find more of these folks doing the human trafficking. But the coincidence, the Artemis 2 took 42 minutes and 50 seconds to go past the far side of the moon. The Pink Floyd album, Dark Side of the Moon, happens to be 42 minutes and 50 seconds. You tell me.
I'll see you on the dark side of the moon.
Oh, Joe, that's just a coincidence, and you know it.
See,
Well, they were in the dark, right? Because they lost communications for 10 days.
Allegedly.
But let's call the moon. Sorry.
Yeah, and even during one of the
Can't call down the block, but let's call the moon.
Yeah, one of the astronauts, while they were talking about their experience, their microphone went out, and it's like, can't have the microphone working. Nevertheless, oh my god.
Oh, well, was that lady on stage?
And what they do, they like teased her hair and hairsprayed it up. Like, what was that?
No. I think, are you talking about when that lady was back and they were talking on stage, Joe?
Yeah.
No, what happened? It wasn't her microphone went, it was her earpiece went, and they stopped talking to her. So she went,
is that what? I was wondering what. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and she didn't know what to say.
She's like,
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's even worse. That's funny.
Yeah.
Or better, really.
See, but in going on with what you were just with Elisa's question there, the one point on this whole thing I think that we all missed is this isn't about the United States.
Right.
This is a global issue. Me personally, I don't think that there's going to be an EBS or an EAS. And again, it's my opinion because I tend to think media. That's what I did. That's something that's used for emergency situations, and I think that the only scenario that we would have in a situation like that is going to be from cause of the quote unquote World War III scenario, which I don't think is really going to be the direction they're going to take it. I do, however, think that if we go by, and again, we don't know squat, so I'm just theorizing here. If we go by what they said in regard to the fact that there has to be a global scare moment to awaken everybody, awaken all the sleepers. My opinion is with that where they're going to go with that will be financial. Collapsing the markets, collapsing the banks, and your inability, if you didn't have the cash on hand, et cetera, that you're going to go and make the run on the bank and you can't get into the bank because the bank is closed. Your credit cards, your debit cards will not work. Now, that's not going to happen. They're not going to drag that on, I don't think. I don't think they're looking to hurt the people that way. But with most people, if for a couple of days, 3 days, you can't get your money, you have no access to your money, you don't even know if your money is still there. You can't access the banking records online, et cetera, people are going to freak. That in and of itself is enough to trigger military response in every country. They're going to have to put in martial law all over the world, which is one of the things that we were told allegedly could happen. So to me, my opinion, that's where they would go with this, is just simply the fact that how do you get everybody's attention? And I go back to the, old Eddie Murphy line in Trading Places. Make rich. How do you get, you make rich people poor people. How do you get even with them? And this is the same type of thing. If people can't access their money, they're going to freak.
If these people will not pay attention when you're telling them about child trafficking, you've got to hit them where it hurts, and you've got to affect all of them. Child trafficking, right? They think, oh, it doesn't affect me. I mean, what an attitude that is, anyway. But if it doesn't affect people personally, they're not going to feel it.
But honestly, Stu, and this is, I probably shouldn't go here, but I'm going to do it anyway. One of the pet peeves that I've got, I don't think that, yes, that's been a big part of what I've been doing, is trying to do for the kids and bring awareness of child trafficking. And yet what I found, and I did have a lot of people who were very, very kind, very generous in contributing to help the kids. I find it very disheartening and very angering to a certain degree that people can go and spend hundreds of dollars, and I'm not, because I know that's not the case with the Awakening Summit, but pay hundreds of dollars to go and see people like us who are on alternative media and to be in that experience, and yet they can't donate $5 to help the kids. And that, to me, and I know that John Rich, the country music star, also put out a song to do with child trafficking, and that really didn't gain much traction. I think that a lot of people know it's there, but still, for whatever reason, want to turn a blind eye to that because it's too close to the quick. And with that, I go back to Sounds of Freedom. If you walk into your kid's room one day and they're not there, how are you going to feel? And people don't want to face this. Right. And I think that facing these realities is really what the Great Awakening is going to be, has to be about to a certain extent. and the people need to face these things if we're going to move forward and rearrange what their priorities in life actually are.
Yeah.
Again,
What's the problem? We talk about child trafficking, and there's levels to it. There's sort of this industrial level where kids are, taken from countries, and it's this mass grand level. But let's be real, 35% of trafficking is done right in our own towns by fathers and mothers pimping out their kids. And you'd never know it because a lot of these people are very respectable members of the community. We had Lee Dundas on, and she was giving us some of the stats, basically said, if you have a motel in your town, then there's trafficking going on. Some, maybe not children, maybe it's adults, doesn't matter. It's human trafficking in one shape or another. And when you think about some of these bedroom communities, like I live very close to Garden City, these are, lawyers and doctors and professionals and Wall Street people. And then to think it's actually happening. See, that to me is what it is. People are thinking it's like over there. What am I going to do about it? It's in like somewhere in Asia, somewhere in South America. And I think that's where the education more and more has to be understood, has to really where it hits home. Your children could be going to school with a child whose parent is doing that.
Well, this was the whole purpose of exposing grooming. Nobody knew what grooming was before, other than, we wake up in the morning, brush your hair and brush your teeth and stuff. But this is the premise now of grooming, and the rush to try and enact legislation in all of the states for anti-grooming, or make a federal law against grooming. This is one of the simple things we shouldn't have to ask for or demand. This should have been there to begin with,
Right.
because we become parents and we're tasked with protecting our children. Well,
Mark, it doesn't help when the grooming, when children are watching like a Miley Cyrus at a young age, and then 5 years later they're being unknowingly sexualized, and now they're following this star, and the parents are going along with it, and they don't even realize the subconscious grooming that's going on there through the media.
But you're still talking about kids being out of your, like somebody else doing it. See, I think what people can't even understand is that a huge percentage of people are doing it to their own children. So that has nothing to do with grooming. That has nothing to do with grooming. That has to do with taking a kid at a very young age. You have control over them, where they are, who they're with, where they go, and trading them for money. So
Right.
that's a lot harder I think, for people to want to think that, there are people in our own towns that are ordering a Domino's pizza and getting a kid, or that a father and mother are doing this to their kids. And I don't really know the answer except to make people understand it goes on.
Right.
And that's one of the key elements that, Kathy O'Brien and others have put out there very flatly. 99% of these people, it began in the home.
Yeah.
One way or another, with one parent or another relative, it began in the home. And this is the sickness that's out there, and people just...
But Mark, again, it's always been that way, kind of. Like there's a lot of people that if you spoke up about it, it was taboo, and you were punished because how dare you talk about your uncle or your father or your mother or your aunt, right? So we have to make it where it's not taboo anymore. We have to have these uncomfortable conversations, because it was being done to a lot of people, and a lot of people are suffering. And then there are a lot of parents that broke that cycle too. So we have to also give them kudos because they broke the cycle. But people were living with this not that long ago. It's still happening, and people keep feeling like that was then. That doesn't happen now, right? That things are, but this is where we have to shine the light on it and let them know, no, this is now. It's here. It's always here. And until we can make it where people feel ashamed again because calling people maps takes away from that negative, like the word pedophile has like a really, negative feeling to it, but maps sound so light and airy and like it's okay. And
Right.
I remember seeing a poster years ago, this was like decades ago, and it said love is love, and it was just two silhouettes, and it was an older person and a child, and I was like, that's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. And then we watched it unfold, and then you start to see, all of the you start to see all of the, they were reading to the children, and then they started to read, like they started doing things in the churches, and it's just like all this craziness. But I think that sometimes things are being done so overboard that people pay attention, but they're still not. I mean, what do we need, a circus clown? Like, I don't know what we need to have these people pay attention, but I mean, they had demonic looking beings reading to children, and it didn't do nothing.
I know.
But this is the whole thing.
Freaked me out. I'm like, what
Very
is going
sad.
to, I'm not a parent.
But it's very sad that until it happens in your home, people just don't get it. And I don't understand why. I don't understand where that disconnect comes in. But that seems to be the greater part of it. And I think that, again, in my opinion, it just hurts too much to think about the fact that that could be fact.
You know what? I'm not sure I buy into that so much. First of all, it's not talked about ad nauseum on the media, right? They talk about everything else on the media. I think if they started talking about this, look what they did with bullying. I mean, when we were kids, you had a fight, you had an argument with someone was picking on you, you had a fight. You fought it out, you defended yourself, it was done. Usually the bully backed down, right? Oh, we can't do that, we can't hit, we got to do it with love. I told my kids when they were younger, somebody bothers you on the bus, somebody hits you, you punch them right square in the face, and I'll deal with the school. Okay, that's your responsibility to take care of yourself, and I'm not going to have you be a victim. If they put the same emphasis in schools, online, think about what they did with bullying. Now it's gone the other extreme, right? But my point is, there really isn't that much out there. It's in our community, we hear it a lot. Okay, so the Epstein files came out, but so was a gazillion other things on the news, and then the war and Iran and the Artemis. And
there's always a distraction.
There's a distraction. So, even at the airports, like I was just in a hotel, and I see in the bathroom door.
I was going to say, I see it so much now. I've never seen that before. It's
still bullshit. It's like, if you suspect, or if you or someone is, suspecting someone of being trafficked, what does that mean? What is there a hands, like they should be showing the hand signal. You're being trafficked. You're going to be able to go, excuse me, I'm being trafficked. Just want to let everybody know. You can't do that. So airports, all these places have to actually express it. Renee on our show, Red Pilling Renee, was saying that it's not enough to have it in this way, that it's just like these songs. What does that mean? What does the kid look like? What does a person look like? And I disagree that people don't care. I don't think it's out there as much as it needs to be in schools, in churches, in, community groups. And I think that's why people are like a little like dumbfounded, because I don't think they really understand. I want to say some people don't give a shit, but I also think some people, they don't get it. They haven't gotten enough information on it to say, oh my God, you mean that's going on in my town or the next town? Or there's not enough like exposure.
Maybe we need to create some kind of organization or something where we can just have education, and it could be virtual for now. And then as it grows, then people can have chapters or whatever. We have chapters for everything. Why not for this, and just have it be, have an awareness chapter. This is what child trafficking looks like. This is what this looks like. And just try to put out the word, because the schools aren't doing it.
Well, what about the DAs? I mean, I remember when my kids were in elementary school and they went to a parochial school, they'd have like the DA come in and give them a whole speech about the internet. And, and the answer was, your kid shouldn't be allowed to have a Facebook or a Twitter. No, that's not really the answer. Like, that might be part of it, but that's not the answer. So they came in and spent all this time on cyber stuff. Great. Well, how come they're not doing doing this for, I mean, have meetings at night with all the parents. Maybe you don't want the kids there. It's like they can't kind of comprehend this at this point. Start with the parents, have groups, have the DAs in the different, areas, get some law enforcement people that are on these task force, get the task force going, like Suffolk County in New York has it, Nassau doesn't. It has to be, like, I think you need law enforcement, the good law enforcement, to be doing a lot of this and getting schools involved in churches and community groups, go to senior centers, right? These folks have a lot of time, and a lot of seniors are in great shape and want to volunteer and do things. I just think like law enforcement has to be involved in a little bit of this and explain things.
Well, it is the censorship. I mean, Louis Herms, who's running for governor of California, has said numerous times that once we can really get the word out in the mainstream media that this is really going on, then that's going to take care of a lot of it, because then we can just finally get this out there at the level it needs to be. But it's still buried everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, just maybe, we as Anons, or whatever you want to call us, we're the news now, are being trusted to get as much of this information out as we can, because the military are working behind the scenes to save as many children as they can while this unfolds. Now, if they were to, and they're still tracking these people potentially in a sting operation to find as many of these kids and to find as many of these paedophiles as possible, if they put out a massive campaign where it was all over the media, it may be detrimental to the rescuing of the rest of these children that are still out there and catching the rest of these paedophiles, because they might stop operations for a little while, sort of go underground, if you know what I mean. I'm just sort of spitballing here, but
You could be 100% right, and I believe that's probably true. But there's also some more grassroots things I think that could be done in towns and locally, right? You're not maybe getting media coverage, but you're letting parents know, listen, there may be a really creepy guy, okay? And he may very well be raping and sleeping with children, okay? But I think if parents were more like told, yeah, be aware of this, I guarantee you men would be more involved in this, that men would have a sharper, keener eye about the weird guy, not just say, he's a weirdo. No, well, let's see. If men found out that someone in their golf group was doing this, you wouldn't need the law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? They would beat the shit out of this guy. And
yeah.
So I'm just saying, I agree with you. There's that, like, it's delicate. Maybe that's why some law enforcement, and they haven't made it such a big campaign, but I still do think that at the school level and the school board level, they should be educating parents. This is what to look like. The signs when a kid is being trafficked, or this is the profile of a pedophile. Are you even aware of what they're like? They're not going to come out and just say, hey, I like kids. They're probably a lawyer, a doctor, or doing something respectable in the community.
Well, definitely. I mean, look at, maybe that's what all this drag queen story time was all about. The White Hats, the good guys, knew this was happening, but they allowed them to do it, to accelerate it, because what an awakening that is for parents.
Right.
All going, what the fuck is going on in my school?
Mm-hmm.
That's local action equals national impact. That is eyes on for the people with kids in a certain school, or these parties, these closed door parties that people are taking videos, and strip dancers for, 1 and 2 and 3 year old toddlers, and all these birthday parties they're having where they'd have a drag queen and a stripper for toddlers. I mean,
family
it was
friendly
to us, wasn't it? It was so outrageous, but that is also got to be outrageous to parents everywhere.
The problem is, I go right back to it again. It's not. And that's the difficult part to comprehend.
Well, it's not outrageous enough for those people, is it? This is, look, they need a scare event, Mark. Hit them in the pockets, scare the shit out of them that they've lost everything. The White Hats, the whole of this operation, I believe, is to negate civil war. I mean, we're not in the trenches fighting each other. We haven't got bullets flying out over our heads. But the easiest way to create a civil war is take everyone's money and not give it back to them. But if you scare them over a weekend or 2 or 3 or 4 days, it's going to put the fear of Christ up them, you know, and they need it because they're still looking away and not getting involved in using voices. So rip the band-aid off, scare them.
Well, this is what we need, but it's got to be like I said at the beginning of this, it's got to be a global event. Because if we go spot by spot by spot by spot, we ain't never getting there.
And maybe that was the point of COVID too, you know, because it was like a dry run of how do we get everyone's attention, right? Wow, we got the whole world's attention. People are listening. People are responding. Now, everybody with different groups responded in different ways, right? Like as truthers, but it got everyone's attention. It affected everyone. And I think the only thing that really affects people to that extent is, like you said, where's my money?
Yep.
Am I going to be able to buy groceries?
So if you scare people enough, maybe this is what the military is waiting for, the people to actually rise. And if you scare people, the fact that they want to come out their homes.
They're starting to rise in Ireland, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're blocking all the motorways. In fact, what day is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday this week, we're meant to have national lorry drivers, tractors, farmers and stuff are going to shut down all the motorways.
Wow.
Well, it's great. But the other thing is as well, isn't it? We've looked at places like Australia and Ireland, and in COVID, they had it quite bad. But there's certain people like the Aussies. Nah, mate, I'll do it tomorrow. You know, they've become so laid back. Maybe certain places, the White House, we've got to push these people harder than certain other areas, you know, to get them engaged. But the farmers, Trump's always talking about the farmers, isn't he? He's always backing the farmers, the military, etc.
Well, this is where we came from. If you look at the trouble spots in the world, they're the English-speaking countries. You know, Great Britain, United States, Australia, Canada. You know, they've built such a population of apathy that it falls out into the elections without them being stolen. It falls right into the elections. People don't show up to vote because they'd rather, wait online for the newest iPhone or Xbox. People are just between not having enough money to support their families, two parents having to work if you have two parents in the household. And as we said before, the instant gratification, all these little things, it all adds up to a situation where a lot of the people have just become apathetic and they sit back and rather than thinking, hey, you're screwing me over, they sit back and say, oh, well, what can I do about it? And walk away from it. And that's what got us where we are. And, going back to the original topic, that's what put us in the situation now where people are accepting opinion as fact. So we're in America, okay, except for Stu. Where do you go to try and get this remedied so that we do inspire people to get off their butts and start to take action and start to do the things that need to be done with our children, with our finances, with just everything that we've turned a blind eye to all of these years.
See, I think it has to be I think if you look at it, especially what allegedly is going on in the White House and underneath in the ballroom where they're trying to change a lot of these ley lines and dismantle the power that the spelling and the satanic stuff and that's been going on in this world. So a little bit I think you're looking at people who maybe are turning a blind eye and they're apathetic, but why are they so apathetic? I mean, between people, they don't understand fluoride. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you have a bigger problem. And we've talked about this on our show. Maybe there is something greater and grander that is going to do something to the earth as a whole with a flare or something that ignites some of that dormant DNA that we have, that's going to bypass a lot of the MK ultraing that everybody's experienced. Because, like Kat said, people wake up in their own time, but that's a little slow if people are also under sort of a spell or brainwashing. And these big air, like New York, parts of England, like, you've got these strongholds, and hopefully those things are being dismantled in a frequency perspective way. But I think it's not just about, like, yes, there's a percentage of people who just are very happy, but what's keeping them stuck there? And I would like to think that maybe, in addition to this whole idea we have of the, EBS, EAS, that there might be something more powerful that's going to open people to be able to, see that and hear what's going on in a different way. Because there's been a number done on the human race, the last hundreds of years that's led up to this point.
Well, okay, but getting 2 points. Going back to what you said before about New York in general and the Jewish population that's there. When you've got such a large Jewish population in one area, and you look and you see that allegedly they voted in, as I like to call him, I'm Madman, which is just rearranging the
Mandami
name. You have to say to yourself, besides apathy, how the hell does that happen?
But did they really, Mark?
That's why I said allegedly.
Yeah, but they should be up in arms. Let's put it that way, even if it was done to them, right? I agree with you 100%.
Now, tied into that, when you look at what's been all over the news recently with I'm Madman, and, he's going to heavily tax wealthy white people in New York City. There's a thing out there that people have protested about and argued about for decades. And what it boils down to is patent discrimination.
Mhm.
So by singling out the wealthier white people in New York, well, that's patent discrimination. What about wealthy Black people? What about the wealthy Hispanic people? What about the, this, that, or the other? You are discriminating, and nobody's saying boo. Nobody's doing anything about it. Now, I'm going to give you a twofold question here, because it kind of falls right in with this, with what you were just saying before. We've learned a lot. And again, all of these are allegations, but we've learned a lot about 9/11 that's factual, that you can't dispute, shown by architects, et cetera, et cetera. And I know from my own personal experience that there's no doubt about the fact that those buildings were imploded. Get past that. We've been told about Project Bluebeam. So in reality, with what we said before about how do you know that you're seeing President Trump? How do you know you're seeing this one, that one, or the other one? You don't know what's real, what's not real. If something were to happen at this point, and you have people who do believe in Project Bluebeam and its abilities, you're going to have a lot of people who will be fooled by that. But how do you get past the alleged patriots who say, oh, no, that's not real. That's Project Bluebeam. Did I stymie you guys?
No, I'm just thinking about what you're saying, really. This is the people that are, well, look, we're all on our own journey, but we the people. We are one consciousness. And we've all got to come together. I think all this division is being created to ultimately bring people together in the end, but division is being created to get people to do their own research. And basically these people that black pill or getting tired and panic hands and doomers and gloomers, they are losing their faith ultimately. And that's what it boils down to. And if we are seeing some sort of massive revival, and we can all talk about organised religion and stuff, but many patriots are turning to God, and whatever God is to each and every individual, we are seeing this. And you know, maybe a lot of people that have black-pilled and gone the other way are going to learn their lesson the same as the people with TDS and the people that haven't woken up yet or used their voice and never said anything. I mean, everyone is going to have to look in the mirror. You can't get away from your reflection unless there's no mirrors anyway. Everyone is going to have to look in the mirror at the end of this and have a word with themselves. And when I look in the mirror, and all of us look in the mirror, I did a good job there. I did everything I could. A lot of people won't even be able to look at themselves. And they're going to have to deal with that.
Well, this is something that I've said a bunch of times, you know, when you, especially with where we're going, and you're right, a lot of people have been turning to God. But I've said a bunch of times, when you take that last breath and you've got to go and explain to God why you behaved the way that you did, why you treated your fellow man the way that you did, why you were disrespectful to women, why you did this, that, or the other, why if somebody had a difference of opinion with you, you fought tooth and nail rather than agreeing to disagree. These are things that in this, again, great awakening, that we have to look at and say, we need to be better people. We need to change. We have to stop taking things as seriously as we do. We have to stop the infighting and backstabbing and backbiting. And we need to move forward from where we are, because that's allegedly, again, allegedly, what this is all about. So you were going to say something before, Elisa.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, it's funny because I think all of us have, like, we love humanity, we want to help, but then, like, with individual humans, we get really pissed off and annoyed, and we just want to smack them, right? But it's very funny because I referred before to this show that we're doing every Friday, Red Pilling Renee, and it's my cousin who thought I was off the wall and crazy, and I mean, he's not nasty, so he wasn't nasty with me, so we were able to banter a little bit. And his last words from one of the last times we got together was, "Oh, is everyone a pedophile?" He had like that reaction. And I said, "Yeah, a lot of people." And then he saw the Epstein files, and he was a broken man when he started learning about this stuff, right? And his question was, how did I not see this, know this? How did this go on without? I'm smart, I'm successful, I'm this. And so he came to me very humbled and apologized. And so we decided, if he was, to have him on the show and kind of show this in real time. And my point is, I think with all of our bluster, when someone actually comes to us and is broken or hurt by an EBS or whatever, this kind of bigger picture of how maybe people will be woken up, I don't think many of us, with all our, anger are going to react that way. And we're going to take these people, take them in, explain to them. I mean, we're dealing with a guy who got the COVID shot, and like, I remember being pissed, like, well, just fine. They're not going to listen to me. Well, good. Let them get sick. And now I'm with this man who I'm like, don't worry. There are things we can do. The last thing you want to do is be upset and give in to all this fear and blah, 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 blah. So in answer to what you were saying, I do think that if something like that happened with Project Bluebeam, you're going to have a lot of frightened people. And maybe that's what our job is, that there's going to be a growing, right? Because we've grown since 2020, our numbers, they may not be out there on podcasts and, but they're there, that are going to now come in. And as Stu said, this separation is going to bring us all together, where it's not going to be us against them. It's going to be us saying, there's a lot of scared people. There's a lot of worried people. They think they're broke. They think and we have to kind of come in and do God's work in a humanitarian way to unite more people and to quell those fears. And I don't know where I read it or who said it, but someone said, when do you wake up from a nightmare?
Yeah.
So to Kat's point, we don't want to see people like hurting themselves, but that's when we wake up. We've all had horrible nightmares, with our hearts pounding and you can't breathe. But then you realize it was just a dream. And so in this case with the money, hopefully there's not people that go out and shoot themselves because their money can't be. I'm sure the white hats and the military are smart enough to know how the best way to do this is, because they don't want people hurting themselves or others. But maybe that's what our job is.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone that comes to us that are genuine, over the last 6 years especially, asking us questions, we are genuine back. We give them things to look at. A lot of the time they go away and 2 weeks later you say, have you watched that? No, but if people come to us that are genuine, we are genuine back. People come to us taking the piss and stuff, we might take the piss back. But this is one of my favourite tweets. It was from March the 4th, 2020 by Eyes on Q. How do you explain to someone that their entire belief system and life has been based on a fabricated reality of lies and deceit? And Fifth Dimension replied, our job isn't to wake them up. Our job is to soothe them during the awakening process. And that is what we all think when they get a red pill, our job is done. No, it's probably just beginning there.
What I started doing is I go back and I find my posts that I posted from years ago, trying to awaken people and trying to show people things, especially the one with the whale in the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Guys, look how long ago this was.
Yeah,
right.
Come on. Let's use our little bit of critical thinking skills, right? So I also posted that they had this, I don't know what it was called, but it was like an app. It was a long, long time ago, and I could make myself into Wonder Woman, and I did. And then I also put myself as Katniss too. And I was like, look at the technology. And this was just from a selfie. It had me moving all day. And that was, again, years ago. So teaching them that this technology is out there and has been out there, I think is what's going to help them understand that this might not be real, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if that's really the plan that's going to be, like, who. And every time something happens, I always say, okay, who started that rumor? Where did this originate? Who started this?
Yeah. So we have heard as well, allegedly, haven't we, that if these military tribunals have been filmed, they've all been filmed on analog. And I believe the reason that happened, or has happened, and they're going to show that, is because they knew how good AI was going to become when the reveal started to happen, which is hopefully not too far away.
When I had nothing to do, I watched the footage of the White House, and I just watched all the shenanigans that went on there. It was crazy, all the things that were going on. And you could see flashing, you can see bodies being removed from there. It was like, is nobody else seeing this? Like, this is the White House footage. It's their camera. It's not like somebody made it up. So I'm wondering if all that stuff is going to start to resurface and come back. But I started to see people are posting, like you were talking about before, Stu, with everybody with their backs to the president. that's starting to resurface. So everything that we've lived through and we know, we're able to bring back and show them and say, look, we've tried to show you this then. Maybe you'll listen now, and help them see that when we were talking about it, you were closed, but maybe now you'll be open. And we are there to comfort them. It's even in the Q jobs, to be there to comfort people. And I think that that's why we had to go through what we went through, so we can come out on this side and say, okay, well, we know because we've been through it.
Yeah, I mean, I just quickly to add to that, I remember when all those flashes were going on in the White House windows, and I went through all those videos, shot, what's it called? Frame by frame, and I've got screenshots. I've got a folder on my computer with all the screenshots of all the flashes. It looked like people were sitting there in electric chairs and stuff, didn't it? Really interesting.
Well, it looked a lot like gunfire.
Yes.
Like each time one went off, it looked like gunfire behind the screen, and that's the theory that they put out there. But again, we don't know.
We don't.
But Joe, bouncing off of what Kat just said, and you talk about critical thinking skills and people just in general critically thinking and using their heads. When you look at the technology that we do have, and the technologies that we have been told have allegedly been hidden from us. You look at the fact that, allegedly, again, in 1969, we went to the moon, and it took until now to go back to the moon. You look at all these different things. You look at the fact that with that moon trip, the president could pick up the phone and talk to them on the moon. And at that point in time, you couldn't get AT&T to connect you from New York to New Jersey.
Even now at times.
Yeah, very true. So, all of these different things, but the technology that we have at hand, where's the critical thinking in most people in this country? Thinking about the fact that why don't we have these technological advances? Why are we still contributing to the American Cancer Society, who for 50 years already can't seem to cure cancer? Never mind the fact that if they cure cancer, they'll be out of work. But, different things like that. Where's the critical thinking in regard to simple stuff like that? Simple, if-then statement, that none of their if-then statements are adding up.
Is the question, where's the critical thinking?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a combination of the brainwashing, the NPCs, people. Still most people they want to hear it from an official source. And like I said, I sent my brother a video this morning. It's 3 minutes of a guy on Twitter, and he's showing that this plane is very capable, and I think they tested it in 2018 of dropping the pod that looks just like it came out of this sky from this what was on with the astronauts in it, and he's sending it to his friend, and he wants to get the source outside. It's like, from me is not good enough. And because that, and he even said, I'm going to choose my reality. You can choose Scott's reality. And I'm like, I don't do Truth Stream to follow Scott Stone's way of thinking. I mean, I was a little offended by it, because I'm like, wait a second. We've done nearly 600 shows. I'm doing a lot of things. Like, I'm trying to show you stuff, yet he still is trying to put me in a category that Scott and I are just on this wild goose chase of Scott's, harebrained ideas that he's had for many years. And it's just like, people can't see it from their friends that are closest to them. So they've got to be, and I like what Kat's doing, is reposting certain things, because by her doing that the other friends might be seeing this, and that even while Kat's friends may not be able to get it because they have Kat labeled in this certain, way, if you will, that it's going to help the other friends on Facebook. So does that make sense? It's like they can't, they've already pigeonholed us, so they need to hear it from their other friends. So hopefully my brother's friend comes back and he's in the military and he's like, actually, Chris, I looked into this, and Joe is right that over the coast of California, there was a very large plane that was military, and it was there at that time. Like, they need to hear it from other people. So I don't know, man, the critical thinking. That's why I think there does have to be some kind of big event of some sort, which, we've talked about on the show, the solar flash or what have you. Because people are just so ingrained, brainwashed, mind controlled, whatever you want to call it, from the years of programming. Like, it's very, very apparent.
When I was in school, I was a communications major. I had a minor in film, and I wish I could remember the name of the movie. But essentially the premise, this is like a 1930s movie, and 30s, early 40s. And the premise of the movie was that they were making films, and one of the guys was saying, there's so much going on. There's a war. There's this. Like, why are you making these happy, wonderful movies? Like, everybody should know what's going on, and everybody should want to understand the reality. And the end of the movie shows they don't want that. They know what they feel, at least at that time, the weight of all the negativity. So if you relate that to today, right? Because I think a lot of this operation is so psychological, right? And how we're constructed. People, gas is high. People, most people have to have 2-income home. People don't have enough money to go on vacation the way they would. They go to the store every week. You go to the store, the food prices are higher, and I could go on and on and on, right? So I think there's just this pull, like, don't tell me something else that I have to try to understand, and I have to get out of some joy or some fantasy that I have about how my life is. And I think, to Kat's point, which we all kind of understand, that's why they've done it so slow, because people would literally, psychologically, you can't handle so much bad at once. You just break down. So I think that's another aspect of this. Is it programming / brainwashing, or is it also the way the human brain works, or at least as much as we're able to use at this point because of what they've done to us, that you just can't, like, it would destroy you. So it has to come out in a slow way or a major way that hits.
Well, I think there's certain personality types too. Like, we're willing to do this.
I don't think it's our personality, Joe. I think it's whatever the soul mission that we have. Right. And we're willing to live in that state of discomfort. Because if you take all of us and go back to our childhood, I'm sure we showed signs of non-compliance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Standing up for things. Like, I personally at dinner would answer my father back because I disagreed with what he said, knowing full well I was going to get a smack across the face, all joking aside. Right. I took the smack because I needed to say my truth.
Right. So what percentage of humanity do you guys feel are in that willing to do that? It's not the majority by any means, but we fall into that category, obviously.
Maybe like the Revolutionary War, like like 1%, 3%, and now other people are awakening because of a trigger that hit them, like my cousin who Epstein files and children being raped woke him up. But I think small for those of us who naturally were drawn to the truth, to the discomfort, to the ugly. And we're okay to live in that.
I'm just so used to being things being challenging that it's just, I guess I don't know why I'm drawn to it. It's just, for me, it's like if it's the challenging part makes it like worth, like, if that's what I have to sink my teeth into is the real challenging things in life, because it feels, I guess it's mission based or something along those lines. It's like, I even remember when I saw my name, my grandfather and I have the same name. When I saw my name on that gravestone, I'm like, I got to make him proud. He came all the way from Italy at age 11, gave everything up to come to the United States, started working on the railroads. I'm not going to just do this the easy way. I need to go do something to showcase that he mattered and his mission mattered. I've been mission driven since I was like 10 years old. I remember even when I was 10, it was like, okay, I'm only 10. I still have time to do something with my life. I mean, it goes way back to that, to dovetail off what you're talking about. Like, we've had that in us. So.
Well, you know what? We're past the 2-hour mark here. So let's go one more question round, and we'll make this really, really simple, holding to what we started with. Dealing with what we know are facts and dealing with where we know people need to be. If you were advising somebody who is either a patriot or somewhat awake, or even kind of red pilling somebody who's not awake, what advice would you impart to them to let them know that they need to check facts and discern what is a fact and what is an opinion? So let's go reverse order. We'll start with Kat.
Sorry, I unmute myself. So you have to even think with like AI, right? Grok and what's the other one? ChatGPT. They lie. So people are even using that as fact. So for me, I would say sit quiet, do your inner work, because once you know your truth, no other truth matters, right? So you have to know what you feel within, and then nobody else can tell you anything other than what you believe, because you already know. So stop looking outward for answers and look inward. And I think that that's where it all begins. That would be my advice to them.
Excellent. Excellent. Jojo?
Wow, that's really good. You know, we always talk a lot on Truth Stream about going within, and I mean, it brings me back to wondering with the whole jab thing, if a lot of these people, that the intention of the jab was to get them to not even think anymore at all. And so I don't have a whole lot to say on that more than Kat, because I want to do some thinking on the subject, because I like to speak from experience, and lately it's been like I'm not really sure, because I can't even get the people around me to, even now 6 years into this, to go within, to question things. And, you know, like some family members, I'd really like to see that from them. You know, I had one of my sisters say, well, go be a doctor then. And it's like, no, we interview doctors. So I'm able to give a platform to a doctor like Dr. Lee Merritt. And what an incredible interview she was. And if folks can get something out of that, like, I don't know what else to do more than I'm doing. And so, yeah, I think going within, but it just seems a lot of these people, like they just stop. Like there's something where they can't even go any further. I see that with my friend's wife. So I really don't know, but I really like what Kat said. So I'll leave that there for now.
Elisa?
I would say that listen to everything, be curious, ask yourself a couple of questions as you're taking all this stuff in, you know, because I listen to everyone as much as I can, like time permits. I've always listened to a lot of podcasters, watched documentaries, all of that. And then I've sort of asked myself a couple of questions. One, does it make sense? Right? We've kind of lost the ability to just say, does something make sense? Right? Like this new math that they introduced, 15 years ago, right? It didn't make sense, but they taught it. So does it make sense? And then think about follow the money, because somewhere, some way, you're going to answer the question for yourself if someone is really all about wanting you to know the truth, be healthy, happy, and prosperous, or if they're getting something out of it. And that's kind of how I like to look at things. I mean, obviously with a military operation, it's different, but I would say don't give up. You were given a mind, you were given a brain, you were given a heart. Just take everything in, take it with a pinch of salt, but ask yourself a couple of questions before you accept it. And that kind of goes to the next step of going within and, like letting yourself kind of ponder these things.
And Stewie.
Yeah, don't forget, everyone is different. So you can't wake everyone up in the same way. The best thing you can say to someone if they start to realise they've been lied to is to forget everything you think you know and start again. Do your own research. One of the best lines we've heard in this was from Outer Shadows, actually. The truth is learned, never told. So people wake themselves up by listening to what you say. So don't vigorously try and red pill people. Just constantly plant the seeds so that when something happens, they're going to think, that crazy bastard was talking about that 2 years ago. You have to plant these seeds in people's heads, and we've all done it. We've honed our bullshit detectors. This is what everyone else needs to do. And it will come. So that's what you've got to do. Keep planting seeds. And I just want to say, I do think everyone talks about God's hand is on this, and we're going to see some God moment. I really hope that we will see some sort of reverse rapture, right? Not the Christians all taken away and going to heaven and things like that. But we are going to see all criminality and all these people involved eradicated somehow. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that is what I hope. So I just say to everyone, get your heart right, right? Keep doing what you're doing, get your heart right, and come and fight on God's army with us lot, the crazies. And one last thing, Kat, what you were saying is that when I meet someone new, I go in the questions straight away normally, so I can gauge someone's attitude towards me, so I don't have to wait right up until the end of the night to know if they want to be my friend or not. I want to know straight away, whether they're a sponge for information or whether they're fast asleep and a waste of my time. But we're here for everyone when they wake up. Yeah. That's it. They might get a few told you so's, but they get a hug afterwards.
Amen. Very, very true. And look, I hope everybody out there got the point of today's show. And as I stated earlier, this wasn't an exercise in trying to disprove what we're fighting for, disprove what we've been told, but it's to try and get you to stop looking at any of us here on the screen and believing flat out what we tell you.
Yeah.
It's to sit, and Kat did put it the best way, to go inside, to go introspectively and look. And that's what journalism is supposed to be about. When the facts are delivered to you, even though with a real journalist, you are getting the facts of the story, you have to see whether or not those facts resonate with you. That's what a good detective does.
Yeah.
He might find something and look and say, something here isn't quite right. There's something
like
missing.
Columbo.
Exactly. So you have to
One
sit
more thing.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm aging myself.
But, you have to look and go introspective and try to figure out what really does resonate with you.
Yeah.
And maybe then we can more so see what are the facts and what are the opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone listening to anything we say should take it on board and go and research it themselves. I watch other podcasts, and the stuff, I'm nearly 25 years into this, and the stuff they say that I don't know, I don't just put it out. I go and check it out before I put it out.
Exactly. Well, been a great discussion, everybody. Let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping here. Coming up in a very short period of time, out on Long Island in New York, is the Awakening Summit. Anybody who's going to be in the New York area, the advantage to this one over last year's is this one is closer to the 5 boroughs. So if you're in the New York area and you don't want to have to deal with getting all the way out on Long Island to an event, this isn't far out. This is very easy to get to. It's on the 25th and 26th of the month. You're going to have a lot of great speakers there, a lot of people who are in the same mindset as all of us are. If you're in the area, try and stop by. You can scan the QR code that's in the bottom, or you can get all the information off the flyer itself. Please, if you're in the area, come and take a listen. It's going to be a lot of very good information imparted to everybody, and it'll be a fun time aside from everything else. God, what is with this today? It is. But everybody, if you can get there, try and do it. It's going to be a great time. Above and beyond that, I want to thank everybody on the panel today. Of course, Stu and Elisa, I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of this as we go through this little transition here. Kat, always great being with you. Wonderful, wonderful. Joe, sorry that your other half couldn't join us today, but he may still be tied up, literally.
Well, ever since I knew him as a little girl in a previous life. Go to our Telegram for that clip. Anyway, folks.
But always a great conversation. It was really a great time having everybody, and I hope that all of you got the same out of it as we did.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Can I announce the show for tomorrow?
Well, oh, yes.
So we have Back to Light tomorrow, and it's all about authority bias. So do tune in.
Is that any relation to Joan Baez? Or... At any rate, everybody, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week on Respect. Don't miss out on Back to Light tomorrow. And as per usual, I will be playing us out with Who Saves the Children?
We do.
We do.
We do.
Good night, everybody. Everybody be well, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Good night.
Children are the center of our world, and we do our best to show them that we care. But evil is lurking everywhere to steal their youth, kill their souls, show them things that they should never know. We live in the craziest of times, you never know what's in another's mind. We keep them safe, protect from bad, but they just choose to make them sad and keep their evil rituals alive. Who saves the children? We do, we do. Who keeps them safe and warm and so secure? We do, we do. We'll track them down for sure and make sure that they are gone forevermore. Why can't you see the crimes committed on our kids by the powers that be? How long do we wait? How many must die? How many loving parents need to cry? Who saves the children?